Hello everyone, this is Lance. Welcome to episode 2 of Central Texas Restorations. And here we'll take up another day of work on the 1982 R65LS. Got to get the blue bike out of the way, get going here. Really today all I want to do is try to just drain all the fluids. I figure, once I get the drain pan out, I might as well drain everything. And one of the main parts of this restoration is to replace all the fluids, replace all the seals. As a reminder, this bike has sat for 20 years. Interestingly, the owner has lived in both Florida and California, now lives in Austin, Texas, and he has had the movers move the bike from California to Florida and back to Austin. So it hasn't been registered since 1995. So that's the purpose of the restoration. So here we go. I figured I'd just pull it off the center stand so I can drain the oil, ultimately pull off the drain pan. But like I said, if I've got the drain pan out, or my drain pan out, I'm going to drain all the fluids. So we'll start out with the oil and see how it looks. There we go. It's nice and black. Not surprised, I guess. Usually something that's been sitting the oil's pretty dark. One thing, just to jump in here, this is not really, I didn't get good footage. I've been spraying aerocroil on the exhaust mount nuts, or exhaust nuts, for like 3 days now. And I was ready for these things to fight me. I actually hit it each side a couple times with a dead blow hammer, and they came right off. So when I looked, someone had put anti-seize on it. It was interesting though, it wasn't copper anti-seize, it was silver anti-seize, but they spun off very smoothly. Don't know if they were from the anti-seize or from the aerocroil I'd been putting on. Here we are pulling the oil filter, same dirty oil, but everything's not too bad. Notice the modern 2-part oil filter that you can get off around the exhaust pipe. I've never actually done one with the single oil filter. I imagine that's a pain to get out of there. Here we are in the rear drive. Surprised to find, the transmission fluid looked perfect. Looked great, smelled great. That had a magnetic drain plug in it and just a little bit of fuzz on it, but nothing to be alarmed about. One thing I didn't notice here, I had the tie straps pulling the forks down, so more than you can see in the video, the oil went shooting everywhere. And don't worry about it on the brake rotor, because I'm going to take all of that apart, rebuild the calipers, new pads, clean up the rotors. Again, I'm just trying to get all the fluids out while I have my oil jug out of the cabinet. One thing I've loved is I bought this really restaurant-style automatic paper towel dispenser, and I use it all the time. I'll leave a link to it. I just got it on Amazon. I'll leave a link, but I buy the towels either online or just at the local restaurant supply, but it saves me a lot in rags, and it's great to have. So one thing I am going to do, even though I'm not going to put it all back together again, I thought I'd go ahead and put an oil filter back in there and get this cleaned up at least. I filed a couple of little burrs that were off on that cover plate. Here's a new O-ring gasket set from Euromotor Electric. I bought a lot of stuff from them. They've been great to deal with. Matt there is who's been helping me out. But new oil filter, everything cleaned up in the ultrasonic cleaner. Again, that's just a cheap ultrasonic cleaner off eBay. It has worked great. I do buy Sharper Tech chemicals. Their Sharper Tech just general degreaser is the one I use. I'll leave a link to Sharper Tech also, but I don't even have a solvent tank anymore. I clean everything in that, and it's water soluble. Really works good. Does a much better job than any petroleum-based solvent. Just a little bit of grease on that gasket holds it in place. I've really gotten to where more and more I just put grease on gaskets and don't worry about gasket sealer or gasket adhesive or anything. It just, everything holds better and they're a lot easier to get off down the road. Like I say, I'll put all the rest of the covers back on once I get everything off and cleaned up, but for some reason I just felt like I needed to get the oil filter back in there. Drain plug, or the oil pan was a little bit of a pain. 14 10mm bolts holding it on, and it shows me hitting it just a little bit. I had to tap on it for a while. It was stuck on there pretty good and full of quite a bit of muck, so I went ahead and pulled the screen off just so I could clean everything up. This is a great use for the ultrasonic. One, it gets rid of all the dirt, but two, in grease, oil, it'll really shine up the aluminum. And again, it's Sharper Tech's General Degreaser. No, I'm not using the screwdriver to pry to remove the gasket. I just was hoping to try to get an edge on it somehow, which I couldn't. So I finally just had to kind of cut through it with a razor blade, get going on it that way. Ultimately, it came off okay. But someone had used some kind of RTV sealant, so it's going to be a pain to try to get that off. I generally have just used gray Scotch-Brite and some lacquer thinner, but if you know of a better way to cut silicone or RTV, a better chemical, please tell me in the comments, because I haven't figured out a way yet. So I wish I would have gotten a better shot of that cover. It looks really nice, really new, inside and out. Here I am just using some lacquer thinner. I like lacquer thinner in one of those squeeze bottles. Just gives me something to clean things up with. Here I am just again with a flat single cut file, just removing any burrs, flattening everything up. In the background there you can see how nice that oil pan came. Here we are just spraying Croil on. This is probably the fourth day of that to try to get the mufflers off. And surprisingly, they started to move and ultimately popped right off and were full of carbon and rust. Look at that. The question is, will the headers come off? I'd been spraying the Croil in here for probably a day and a half and tapping on it with a hammer. Let's see if it'll come off for me today. Actually, this is the first time I've tried. My blue bike, it took forever. 2x4s and a lot of pounding to get it to come off. This one popped off relatively easy. Well, I think this is a good break here. I just appreciate you watching, and we've got a lot of footage already done. It's just taken me a while to edit, but next episode we'll continue dismantling and cleaning everything up, and within hopefully 2 more episodes my plan is to have the engine all cleaned up and buttoned up. So again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again.